Good Monday morning, everyone, and welcome into today's daily Bible reading for September the 30th. Today, we are beginning a read through the 119th Psalm, which is the longest division within the entire Bible, spanning 176 verses. This psalm is broken up into, I don't really want to do math right now. However many sections fit, however many sections of 8 fits into 176 verses. That's how many sections there are. Each of these sections is, like I just said, contains 8 verses, and they each correspond with a letter in the Hebrew alphabet. This is a Hebrew acrostic psalm, meaning that each of the lines within the psalm start with the same Hebrew alphabet. So I know we don't know our Hebrew alphabets. I'm sure in your Bible it shows you exactly what the Hebrew letter is. Like, for example, verses 1 through 8, each of those lines would start with the Hebrew letter Aleph. And then 9 through 16, each line starts with the Hebrew letter Beth, and so on and so forth throughout the text. It would just be like if we did something like that, and each of the first one started with A, the next section B, next section C, so on and so forth. This long psalm, this uh, almost like a Bible of Psalms, because just as the Bible is a collection of books within a singular book, in some ways, this is a collection of Psalms within a singular Psalm. But this entire Psalm is based upon the idea of celebrating God's Word. You'll note as we go through this Psalm over the next couple of weeks, I think we're going to try to fit in 2 weeks. We're going to do 10, we're going to do 4 readings this week. So we'll read today, tomorrow, Tuesday, and then Thursday and Friday. And then I think we have 3 reads the next week, and then we should be able to get all the way through Psalm 119. But just note how many different ways God's teaching, law, decrees are mentioned. Just looking before we get actually into the text, looking at Psalm 119 verses 1 through 8. There's the Lord's instruction, there's Yahweh's instruction, His decrees, His ways, His precepts, His statutes, His commands, His righteous judgments. All those different ways are in reference to things pertaining to God and His teachings, and this is celebrating this. This is recognizing all the many benefits that come whenever someone is willing to submit themselves to the teaching of Yahweh. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through 3 sections at a time, I believe. So we're going to do 1 through 24 today, and then tomorrow 25 through 48, so on and so forth. And the way we're going to structure this is we're going to look at how each section, the very first line, really gives us the theme for that particular section. So, for instance, this first section, verses 1 through 8, the focus really is on walking and keeping God's commands, and how those who do that are blessed. And we're going to see how that is the case throughout that section. In the second section, the theme is being pure in heart, and how Yahweh's word helps us to do that very thing. And that's the only section, in fact, that starts with a question of how it can be done. And then the third section today is experiencing God's generosity. Deal generously with your servant so that I might live. And we'll see how that is borne out throughout the rest of that particular section. So we're looking at Aleph, we're looking at Beth, and we're looking at Gimel today. Those are the 3 Hebrew letters that are on the schedule. So let me go and get the text up on the screen, and we'll get to reading here in Psalm 119 and verses 1 through 24, which contains 3 sections of this Hebrew acrostic psalm, Hebrew acrostic psalm. Let's read together, beginning in Psalm 119, beginning of verse number 1. Psalm 119, verse number 1, how happy are those whose way is blameless, who walk according to Yahweh's instruction. Happy are those who keep his decrees and seek him with all their heart. They do nothing wrong. They walk in his ways. You have commanded that your precepts be diligently kept. If only my ways were committed to keeping your statutes, then I would not be ashamed when I think about all your commands. I will praise you with an upright heart when I learn your righteous judgments. I will keep your statutes. Never abandon me. Verse number 9, Beth. Verse number 9, how can a young man keep his way pure? By keeping your word. I have sought you with all my heart. Don't let me wander from your commands. I have treasured your word in my heart so that I may not sin against you. Yahweh, may you be blessed. Teach me your statutes. With my lips I proclaim all the judgments from your mouth. I rejoice in the way revealed by your decrees, as much as in all riches. I will meditate on your precepts and think about your ways. I will delight in your statutes. I will not forget your word. Verse 17, the section begins with Gimel. Deal generously with your servants, so that I might live. Then I will keep your word. Open my eyes so that I may contemplate wondrous things from your instruction. I am a resident alien on the earth. Do not hide your commands from me. I am continually overcome with longing for your judgments. You rebuke the arrogant, the ones under a curse, who wander from your commands. Take insult and contempt away from me, for I have kept your decrees. Though princes sit together speaking against me, your servant will think about your statutes. Your decrees are my delight and my counselors. Psalm 119 and verses 1 through 24. All right, so getting into this first section, again, the theme in the first section is walking and keeping God's commands. So what do we learn about that within this text? Well, first thing we learn is that those who do so are happy. They're happy and they are blameless. When we do what God says, when we are obedient to his word, when we follow his clear instruction, then we can claim and rightly recognize ourselves to be blameless. Again, I guess it would be important to recognize that that's not a reason for boasting. The blamelessness that we would have in that moment, the purity that we would have, are not because of things that we've done according to our own wisdom and our own think-sos and decision making, like as if we think this is the right thing to do. No, it is submission to the will of God, recognizing that his ways are the good ways. His instruction is the good instruction. Again, how happy are those whose way is blameless? Verse number 2, happy are those who keep his decrees. Happy are those who seek him with all their heart. They do nothing wrong. They walk in his ways. Again, why do they do nothing wrong? Well, so long as they're walking in God's ways, they will do nothing wrong. So long as we are obedient to God, we will not stumble. But when does stumbling happen? Stumbling happens when we decide not to obey God, when we decide to rebel against him in some way, shape, or form. That is when stumbling happens. That is whenever we do things wrong. So if we want to experience a blessed life, we want to experience a happy life, then we need to walk according to his instructions. You have commanded that your precepts be diligently kept. And if only my ways were committed to keeping your statutes, then I would not be ashamed. So we're looking at it from the other angle now. So the first angle is, happy are those who keep his statutes, who keep his instruction. Now we're seeing that those who keep instruction will not be ashamed. They'll not be ashamed when they think about your commands. The author says, I will praise you with an upright heart. When I learn your righteous judgments, I will keep your statutes, never abandon me. So notice these good things that happen when someone walks and keeps God's commands. When someone is dedicated to that, when that is the focus of their lives, then they're happy, verse 1. They're happy, verse 2. They do nothing wrong, verse 3. They will not be ashamed, verse 6. And Yahweh will never abandon them, verse number 8. Many blessings come when we walk and keep God's commands. The second section here, verses 9 through 16, again, the theme here being pure in heart. This starts with a question. As I mentioned, the only section that begins with a question. And the question is, how can a young man keep his way pure? And here's the easy answer: by keeping your word. So let's keep going back to that. How can a young man keep his way pure? Verse number 10, by seeking Yahweh with all of his heart. The request is, don't let me wander from your commands. Why? Because staying close to God's commands, keeping his commands, leads to the way being pure. So how can a young man keep his way pure? By treasuring Yahweh's word in his heart so that he does not sin against him. Yahweh, may you be blessed. Teach me your statutes. What happens whenever his statutes are taught? What happens whenever lips proclaim all the judgments from Yahweh's mouth? What happens whenever the person rejoices in the way that is revealed by Yahweh's decrees. What happens whenever someone meditates on Yahweh's precepts, thinks about Yahweh's ways, delights in Yahweh's statutes, and never forgets Yahweh's word? What can that person experience? Well, that person will experience being able to keep his way pure, being able to keep his heart pure. So from the other angle, then from the other side, how can we do that? Keeping his word, seeking him with all of our hearts, keeping his commands, treasuring his word, proclaiming his judgments, rejoicing in his decrees, meditating on his precepts, thinking about his ways, delighting in his statutes, and not forgetting his word. When these things are, again, when these are our focus, when these things are the things that we're putting effort into, then we can have confidence that our way will be kept pure. So first section, walking and keeping God's commands. Second section, being pure in heart. Number 3, the third section here, verses 17 through 24, experiencing God's generosity. The request from the author is for Yahweh to deal generously with your servant. And here's why: so that I might live. And what will be the response then from this individual? What will be the response of the person to whom God has been generous? He says, I will keep your word. I will keep your word. Another request in verse number 18, open my eyes so that I can contemplate wondrous things from your instruction. God is so generous to us in so many different ways. God is so generous. He is so gracious. He is so merciful. And so often what we must do is we need to simply open our eyes to see those things, to stop being so self-centered, to stop being so narrow-minded in what we focus on, and instead open our eyes to see just how good God is to us. The author says, I'm a resident alien on earth. Do not hide your commands from me. That's God's generosity. Because of his generosity, he will not hide his commands from us. I'm continually overcome with a longing for your judgments. You rebuke the arrogant, the ones under a curse, who wander from your commands. So that's who you are harsh toward. That's who you seek to rebuke and to punish. But for me, you're generous to me. Why? Well, because he says, I have kept your decrees. So verse 22, take insult and contempt away from me. Let me experience your generous grace because of my commitment to you. So again, it works both ways. Verse 22, I have kept your decrees. So please take insult and contempt away from me. On the other end, verse 17, deal generously with me, and I will keep your word. These things go together. We cannot expect for God to be generous to us and then for us not to reciprocate that love and commitment that he has for us to him. We must reciprocate that. We must give that back to him. Him showing us grace comes the responsibility of honoring the one who has been gracious to us and focusing on him and his kindness to us, not other people. Not even those who might be dealing poorly with us. Look at verse 23. Though princes sit together speaking against me, though this is something that is going on in my life, the author said that's not going to be my focus. I'm not going to think about that. I'm not going to waste sleep over that. I'm not going to be worried or concerned with that. Why? Because his focus is on what is important, what will help any situation, what will bring glory to God, which is thinking about God's statutes, having a delight in his decrees and allowing his decrees to be his counselor. The fact that God would give us his statutes, the fact that God would give us his decrees, the fact that God would counsel us through these things is a sign of his generosity toward us. And what a blessing it is, again, that God has been so gracious to us that we don't have to waste a whole lot of time focusing on so many of the negatives in life, focusing on the struggles and the trials, that those things don't consume us, but instead we take those difficulties, we take those trials, and we lay them at the feet of a very, very powerful God who will be generous to us in helping to lift up our burdens as we put our confidence and trust in him. So in our 3 sections today, 3 things that we've seen. Number 1, the blessed life that comes whenever we walk and keep God's commands. Number 2, that we can be pure in heart by doing the very things that verses 9 through 16 show us what we need to do. And then number three, we get to experience God's generosity in this life whenever we have our minds focused on the right thing and not distracted by those things that seek to grab our attention and cause us to waste time, cause us to waste energy with anxiety and worry. We simply need to focus on a very powerful God that we serve and recognizing that the generosity that he has given us in his instruction can lead us to deal well with the difficulties in life. So I hope this reading today through Psalm 119 and verses 1 through 24 has been a blessing to you. I look forward to continuing to work our way through this psalm again throughout this week. We'll be reading, as I mentioned, tomorrow as well. So we're going to go Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday this week. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And just because we have four, we'll take that schedule for this week. And I look forward to continuing to work through this good psalm with you. If you have any questions or comments about this portion of the text, please feel free to leave that in the comment section below, and look forward to reading with everybody again tomorrow. Again, not on Wednesday, but tomorrow we'll be reading from Psalm 119 and verses 25 through 48. 25 through 48. Today is Alex's birthday, so very happy birthday to Alex Hernandez. We're thankful for her and hope that everything's going well with her as she continues to help the little baby in her belly to grow and be healthy and strong. Glad everybody got to enjoy Hannah's, those who were able to make it to Hannah's baby shower yesterday. I saw some pictures, heard some good stories, and I know that was a blessing. We're very thankful for the ways that God is blessing our church family with these wonderful additions among our group. So everybody have a great day. Have a great Monday. Continue to pray for all those affected by the weather recently. Pray for Zach and Caden while they're on their way. Zach's already down in Florida taking care of the people there, and Caden's on his way, I believe, as well. Again, thanks for tuning in today. We'll be back again tomorrow, reading together 3 more sections of Psalm 119. Take care, and God bless.